Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Anime Anticlimax. This is SeptumSin, and I have with me today are our three anime experts. We have Roger from Animazing, Jake from my channel, and I don't know from Embrya Arts. Thank y'all for coming and discussing this with me. Of course, this is the end of my quarter, technically. It's gone a little bit past that for picks, but this was a little bit longer than the typical. It was like a 26-episoder.
Yeah.
But my overarching theme that I had for my 3 months was more obscure stuff. And I guess it ends correctly because this is probably the most obscure of the stuff that I had put up.
Yeah.
And this is a series called Hare Harengu, which is a 26-episode series, vintage 2001. This series actually had two sequels, an OVA called Harengu Deluxe, and one called Harengu Final. Now, Harengu Deluxe did release in the United States. It did get a U.S. release with 6 episodes. The 7-episode final has yet to ever grace our shores. So that one might have the answers you're looking for, Brittany, but none of us will be able to figure it out because it's not likely to ever be seen.
I just want to know what goo is.
She's a little girl.
Yes. Yes, absolutely not at all anything else.
Absolutely.
Well, there can only be 2 possibilities.
Nothing to see here.
Well, so this is actually this is a series about this small child growing up with his mother in the jungle, and she takes in this little girl who I guess is orphaned, named Goo. And Goo tends to be more eccentric than they realize, taking them on strange adventures.
That's one word for it.
So, I'm guessing that actually most of y'all probably heard of this. Maybe many of y'all have seen it. I don't know, but we'll find out. Let's start with you, Roger. Have you seen this series before?
Hell no. I mean, the only reason I bought it because I wanted to finish up my AN collection.
So you'd heard of it then before?
Oh yeah, I sure I heard about it, and I've seen it in my collection for years. But recently, I just finished it up. I had simply came with all kinds of excuses not to watch it. And the primary one is it's so damn rare that I didn't want to scratch up the disc or fool with it.
I have almost a weird way of looking at this and saying, but if I open it and it works, at least I know it works. But then again, if I open it and it doesn't work, then darn, I've wasted all that money. It's probably better. That's like a Schrodinger's, what is it, Schrodinger's box or something like that?
Yeah.
You ruined the mint condition.
Let's see here. Let's see. We've got a thing here from Anthony Chobot does pop culture and cultures and opening. All right. How are you doing, buddy? Doing BTW. I'm up to 1998 in my memoirs. All right. Very cool. We're getting close to when this series released, which was 2001. Well, this is, like I say, this is going to be an interesting discussion, I'm sure. But did you, in short, what was your first impression of this, seeing it for the first time?
Well, I was rather, I was kind of confused. It didn't seem to have a straightforward storyline. It does like more episodic. You can watch any of the episodes almost in any order and figure out what's going on with that particular episode. So you didn't have to really know about every character to enjoy the show.
Oh no. Taking a break from Facebook. Be back soon. Well, hopefully you'll still enjoy YouTube. But I understand Facebook is a good place to take a break from every now and then. Well, how about you, Jake? Let's see. I'm gonna mute you briefly because there's interference. Somebody got interference currently.
Yeah.
All right. So Jake, was this your first experience with Hare and Goo?
Well, not exactly. I've been seeing it on your shelf for a long, long time and gone, what the hell is that thing? And I feel like I probably saw part of a couple episodes at one point. I can't remember correctly, but I feel like I probably, when you watched it, I might have seen a little piece of it. But I definitely don't remember it much at all. This was definitely my first time really watching it. And my initial impression was that it's kind of mixed. I did end up having to watch it in English, which honestly, the way the show's structured, I don't think that's necessarily problematic. It's got a couple Japanese characters, but it's the main issue is that the English voice actor for Hare gets very shrill very often, and that may be true in both languages. I'm sure it is, but it got a little old after a while. Some of the voice acting was solid.
I love the English voice acting for Goo, though. I love the English voice acting.
Yeah. I did like Goo's voice actor. That was fun. And my initial impression was a little bit mixed. The show is very entertaining, and there's a lot here to enjoy. But most of the characters got on my nerves on multiple occasions. One of the reasons why I ended up going with the Elder, partly that impressive display of the Hare. What's up?
I'll tell you all about my experience with obtaining the collection in a bit.
But basically, it was hard to find a character that I didn't have some issues with. I had very few issues with the Elder, and there were a couple characters who I was just kind of neutral towards. But overall, it was a fun show. I'm sure we'll mention it again later, but I absolutely love the opener. It's a lot of fun, and it really gets it off on the right note. And it's just, and y'all know that I have a penchant for weird as fuck characters, and Goo does fit that to a T. As Brittany said, what the hell is Goo?
See a nice normal picture of Goo right here in the background.
Oh, yes, so normal, yes. Nothing at all creepy or weird about that. But, yeah, it was interesting. I'm glad I finally saw it. But I will say that the main series does end at a very, very, very awkward moment.
Very abrupt.
Very abrupt. It's like, and hey, Mike, thanks for dropping by. It's like the experience of the end of Umineko. Although the good thing is here, I know there's a continuation. I'm going to have to see Deluxe. I guess I won't get to finish it because if that other piece is not available, well, damn.
Welcome to borrow Deluxe off of me if you want.
So we can hope that Discotheque will resurrect the series and spring for the whole thing. You never know. But, at least with this one, I know there's a continuation. Umineko just stopped. It's like, you got to play the damn game if you want the rest of the story. No, this one, yeah. But if just watching this show, it's frustrating where it ends. Yeah.
Well, I will say this is the kind of show that Discotheque would probably go back after.
Yeah.
So, Brittany, was this your first experience with this show?
Not really. Hold on a second. No? All right. Been messing with voice stuff. No, it is not. Because you let me borrow the first disc before. So I watched the first disc, and I did remember that the doctor was the doctor, or it was Hare's father. So I was like, I remember this. And it's like, yep. Brandon let me borrow the disc.
Any first
I
impressions?
never finished it. Never finished it, but
Well, you finished the original show now.
yeah.
Well, my first impression's pretty interesting. Back in the day, there was a store called Saturday Matinee that was in the malls, and they sold, back in the heyday of physical media, they sold a lot of different things, and they sold anime when anime was not quite as mainstream as it is now, but more mainstream than it was in, say, the 90s. Though I think they sold anime in the 90s too. I saw not only this in the volume 1 in the box new, but that somebody had also turned in a used of all the rest of the series. So I was like, well, I can do that. And in the box, they, as an extra, they included the chest hair of the chief that you could wear as a wig. I admit it was kind of weird
cool.
once you figured out what that was, but it was an interesting add-in for the set. So that's how I got the box and that. And then later on, I had found that when I went back to the store, I found Deluxe sitting in there, and I scooped those up, which was good because it was a few years after this had come out when I did find it. So I'm glad I did get it when I did. And I watched it relatively quickly because whenever I get something used, I try to watch it quickly. And back then, I was more readily up to date with my used. Though that's kind of a lie now because I am 100% up to date with my used now. So I got to it right away. And the first series that this reminded me of at the time I watched it was Kodacha, mainly from the opening. But some of the animation and some of the style reminded me of it. Now that I am watching it later, and I've seen a lot more anime since then, it's now giving off... The opener still reminds me of Kodacha, but the series itself gives off more Bobobo vibes to me. Even the way it looks, it kind of gives me a Bobobo vibes. But we'll go ahead and get into this. So we start off basically with a little clue about the overarching story, quotation marks, where we see a young woman running away in the night, who happens to be, of course, Hare's mother, as we see he has been playing video games all night, and she basically pulls the plug on the game right before, as he's fighting the boss. Of course, he looked like he was about to lose that fight anyway, but still sucks when you've worked that hard in an RPG and you didn't save at the last minute. But we get to meet Hare and get introduced to Gu, who seems to be this very cute little girl who was who apparently did not have any parents, and Hare's mother decided to adopt her. So let's talk about, I guess, the three main characters that we run into in the first episode. And I agree with Jake on this. I do think that Hare's voice is a bit grating, but it's also grating in the Japanese, so I don't really feel like there's much difference there. Though I think Goo's voice is actually much more hilarious in the English dub. But I could be wrong when it comes to that, as far as like somebody else listening to it and finding it more hilarious. But what did y'all think of Hare as a character?
And just mostly a guy that yelled a lot. He always seemed to be forlorn, that he always had to be confronted with weirdness ever since Goo has arrived. He just wants a normal life, playing video games and going to school. He lives in the jungle for whatever heck reason. So yeah, I guess he has been around weirdness for I guess his life. So with the introduction of Goo, he just has a swift change of personality to someone that would snap very quickly to yell mode, and then try to retreat in gloom mode.
Basically, he exists as a foil for both Goo and his mother.
He's a straight man.
She is too. Weta, his mother, is way too easygoing. She's weird about it. She's super, super, super stubborn, but very spontaneous and free and easy, and doesn't let things get to her mostly. There are a couple of notable exceptions, but generally, and so he basically has to be the one who does everything because she is so lazy. She is so, he has grown up like ultra responsible and but also ultra high strung. Like he is just super easily, like Roger said, he quickly goes into screaming mode, but is just so high strung. And Goo is like this force of chaos and weirdness that has completely upended his neat, orderly life. And so he is kind of, again, he's the foil for her weirdness and the foil for Weta's sheer lack of responsibility. And yeah, like I said, very, 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 very high strung. I actually felt for the guy. The main reason he exasperated me was because he yelled so much.
Well, to be fair, he is the only responsible adult in his entire life, basically.
More or less,
even when his dad comes into play, he's not responsible.
Oh, no.
His teacher's not responsible.
No.
The elder's not responsible.
The elders more so. And so is,
a little bit.
Yeah.
But still, when everybody's insane, you need the sane character.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the elder does have his unusual eccentricities, and he also, for good reason, becomes terrified of Goo and becomes basically her loyal slave. Then I know when we get to the doctor, that's a whole other can of worms there, but
I mean, I recognize the voice actor of Hare, but I don't remember too many roles in the English dub. When we get to other characters, they're more notable actors in here.
Well, we have a whole bunch of responsible characters in this series.
Oh, yeah.
But Hare is the straight man. And when you have when you have as strange a cast as you do, you really need that straight man. Which is another reason why I'm sitting there, I'm thinking Bobobo must have taken some notes from this stuff. Because, you have that in a lot of these really weird series. You got the one character that's like, what the heck is going on?
Right.
For instance, in Bobobo, it's Beauty, who is the one who is the non-weird one.
The straight man, yeah.
So, when I first watched this series, Goo bothered me more than she
Mhm.
does now. Because Goo is kind of a mixed bag. She's
Mhm.
not entirely evil. She's just more mischievous, and she
Mhm.
doesn't do any lasting harm to most of the people. She just kind of plays elaborate pranks with her godlike abilities.
Mhm.
But and in some cases, she just seems like she's just trying to fit in whatever way she can, but sometimes purposefully misinterpreting what's told to her.
Yeah.
So we're also introduced to some of the other characters. Of course, we have the little bird that he likes to talk to, but
Got confused by Goo.
Goo quickly eats a lot of.
Again.
Yeah.
And we also notice that there's an entire dimension inside of Goo's stomach, and
Right.
Like another universe.
which you've got like a high school girl and another guy who is like a, what was it, head student or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And some sort of strange cat.
Yeah. Very strange cat.
You know, strange landscapes and robotic controls too.
Yeah.
It's-
Quick note: you made all these comparisons to Koda-chan and Bobobo. Apparently, neither of which according to ANN, Shin-A Animation is the primary animation studio here. They're not known for either of those shows, but they are known for the lion's share of Doraemon shows.
Which is weird.
And
weird.
playing Shin-chan.
Also,
I see
Hey,
some
Pat,
Shin-chan and
the remote
DNA in
control.
this as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just thought that was kind of interesting that apparently that's the main one. There probably is some overlap with some of the others you mentioned too.
I'm a bad anime person. I've never seen an episode of Doraemon.
Yeah. Apparently some of the in-betweens, we had a couple episodes where the in-between was done by KyoAni, couple where it was done by Gainax, but not the main lion's share of it.
I haven't seen Doraemon, but I played the Story of Seasons Doraemon game.
I've seen plenty of Shin-chan, but the animation is much better than Shin-chan.
Yeah. But I could see some similarities in certain aspects, but
actually, oddly enough, the opener, the animation in the opener doesn't look anything like the animation in the series itself for most part. So it kind of, I could almost see that being done by a different studio than the one that did the series itself. But we'll get into that at the end. We're also introduced to other characters in the school. Mr. Lazy, the teacher, who is exactly that. We have the little girl, Marie.
Didn't they say at one point that Lazy stays up all night playing video games and that's why he can't stay
And
awake?
watching anime.
And watching anime.
Oh, and watching anime, yeah. And I gotta say, with Lazy, I gotta ask, Brandon, did you watch this before you played your character Unko? Because what I know of Unko, I felt like Lazy must have been a major influence.
I had seen this before I watched it. Actually, I don't know. It might have been because I don't think he was not an inspiration. It was purely Shikamaru that was inspiration for that character.
Okay.
But I could see there's some similarities there. And Lazy does have some character development because you find out that he's got a crush on Wada.
Lazy does?
I think it was Lazy.
Yeah.
Well, there was
the problem is when he's awake and moving, it's hard to put him down as the same character that's asleep all the time.
There was another character who's in the class who's obsessed with Weta. But
there was the blonde-haired guy.
The one who's always hanging out with the blonde.
And then there's the jokester, who's the most annoying character.
Oh my God.
The Laughing Man. That's the one character that was the most irritating to hear about in English. I watched the whole thing in English, and he was the most irritating guy I had to deal with.
Oh yeah.
But in all fairness, he was meant to be annoying as hell.
He did his job well. I'll give you that.
I'm trying to think of the other characters kind of just fade into the background, tell you the truth. You have the kid who's the chief's.
Well, a couple of them are. Like a couple, like the two young, I think they're the two youngest.
There's two lovebirds.
Huh?
There's the two lovebirds, and then there's the girl with the pigtails.
Right.
Well, the lovebirds were eaten by goo.
Well, I think almost everyone was at one point.
Well, I mean, weren't the ones that lived in goo the two lovebirds?
No.
No, you're talking about the idiots, right?
The two idiots that are constantly like in the opener, you have them endlessly spinning in each other's arms.
Yeah.
And they drama.
Yeah, I don't remember all the character names. I'm trying to remember some of them, but.
And of course, with the
Poste is the elder's son or grandson. Ravenna's the redhead. I'm trying to remember who. Gupta is the one who was blonde who ended up changing his hair later.
Yeah, for a pretty decent good reason.
Yeah.
If I may say so.
The doctor also had to change his hair color for a good reason, but
a very good reason on that.
Yes.
Of course, you have the chief, you have the doctor, and you have his best friend.
There was a young girl, the spiky hair young kid that seemed to hang out. There was the maid. Eventually, these upper crust characters come into play.
Oh yeah, the maid
character, some sort of handyman person. I guess I thought it might be a butler, but kind of acts like that's like a handyman.
Bel Inacio. Well, you see him later on at the mansion taking care of the grounds, so he's basically the groundskeeper.
Then you have a personal bodyguard too.
Yeah,
I like the bodyguard. But the story takes a very different a different approach towards like a little after the middle.
Yeah.
Well, eventually, I'm surprised that they didn't reach. When they, I know when they started in the jungle, then they ended up someplace else. But I'm kind of surprised that they decided to stay. I thought they'd be here for maybe 1 or 2 episodes, and we're tired of this place. Let's go back to the jungle with all our friends and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, the last part of the series just takes place entirely in the city, and then
the one in love with Weta was Ugir Wiggle in English, but Uglier. He was the one that kept trying to kill himself.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing about this show. Yeah, on one hand, it is supposed to be slapstick comedy, but it did have some pretty dark, kind of darker kind of elements to it.
Right.
With suicides. I think one time Goo calls Hare a person that has a pedis or a pedius complex. There was
she was talking about how he was way too close with his mother or something like that. And then he's like, "You're just beating around the bush." And then she just says Oedipus. And he's like, "No, you're being too blunt."
His mother is a bit weird. And
yes.
She's both kind of dismissive and overprotective at the same time.
Yeah. Because
she sticks like glue to him at some points, and then basically wants to just lounge around and do nothing with other people in other times. I mean, she insists on always having him sleep in the same bed with her every night.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said before, Weta was weird. Like I wanted to like her more than I ended up liking her. But she, she left home for a fairly good reason, and the episode does kind of start with that. And it's actually a strong tonal shift from that opening scene to the early several episodes. But then she is fiercely protective of Hare. there's actually an episode later with a bank heist where she actually shows she can kick ass if she needs to. But most of the time, she is lazy as hell, wants nothing to do with responsibility, wants nobody to tell her what to do. She is incredibly stubborn to the point where she often comes off as very cruel. Well, yeah, dismissive, but I would say cruelly dismissive. And not only that, she seems completely oblivious, one, to the fact that she's a bit uncomfortably close with her son. She's completely oblivious to the affections that the doctor still has to her. She's just she's in her own special world. Let's put it that way.
Well, speaking of the doctor, what did y'all think of the doctor character?
Well, it's kind of starts out as the normal, mean, weird doctor, and it just becomes a little more lighthearted as time goes by. And I guess he does get hitched up with Harry's mother again.
He's initially introduced as a incredibly amoral super pervert. And actually, when we first, before the big reveal, and by the way, folks, y'all know the drill, there's spoilers. Before the big reveal of his relationship to Hare, Hare is prompted to ask about his father for the first time in probably ever. And Weda's initial reaction is not pleasant. You get the impression that she's got this horrible, hateful grudge against him that will never die. And that, when you find out he's the father, it's like, but then she sees him, she's like, oh, hey, and it's like, it's weird. It's like she has the way she first reacted, you would think that at least for 3 or 4 episodes, she would treat him like shit. But no, it's like, oh, hey, how have you been? And like I said, she seems oblivious to his affections, and he does become more into her as the series goes on. But sometimes you think it is an act, but sometimes you think, no, she might actually be this dense.
And I can perfectly understand Hare not wanting him to get with his mother.
Yes, I can perfectly understand it. And I can understand him being ashamed that the guy is his father. Although they become closer than either of them wants to admit as the series goes on.
It's kind of weird sometimes when they actually, for brief times throughout the series, act like father and son. It's very rare, but it is very weird when you see it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they got together to try and finally convince him to no longer look like Grandpa.
Yes.
What did the rest of y'all think of the Doctor as a character?
Sorry, I mean it's my air conditioner that makes all the noise here. It's basically he's your trope anime male of the 90s to 2000s. It's kind of hard to say, yeah, it'd be better to have him a little bit toned down, but at the same time, I kind of disagree with Jacob. He never fell out of love with Wada. He keeps up with his love. Wada played in English by Wendy Lee, and sorry, I did not mean to open something. But yeah, Wendy Lee and Liam O'Brien plays the Doctor. So you get pretty much this sort of absolutely one-minded set person with the Doctor. to where he's absolutely got to be going through, and he'll only be nice to the girls at the start and completely is an asshole to any guy.
Oh.
With the exception of Goo. Goo, he's kind of like got that, maybe not. He's not cute in a regular form. So
He likes her cute form, though.
yes.
I mean, the fact that he decided as a birthday gift to give Hare a porno mag, because well, that's what little boys read, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But
for kids.
I think that there's always feelings for Weta, but at the same time, it duels with the fact that the doctor's a pervert and doesn't want to be nailed down, and wants to chase any skirt that he can.
We see that with so many anime characters.
Yeah.
Out there. I mean, where you'll have a main love interest and he'll be slightly perverted, and it's the willing to keep looking but having one mindset as to where he ends up.
Right.
And other characters, of course, in this, you got the Chief, who was more antagonized by Goo, but it does bring his own flavor of interesting to them. And really loves the native animals of the land. What are those things called? But yeah,
Hooptas.
Really loves those, like to eat those. Those are also those are a character in and of themselves.
Yeah.
They're the weirdest looking things. They're like
Yeah.
almost like rabbits in a way, but they have these weird, ugly human faces. And I'm thinking to myself, who looked at that and said, this will taste good? But
Yeah.
I mean, you have one of the characters that's like Weta's best friend, who you find out when they did the Urban Legends episode, that it's a legend that someone was raised by them. And you find out that that's actually true.
Yeah. They asked. They were like, "Oh, well, the elder will know an actual legend," and he tells them this story, and then he ends it basically like saying, like, "I remember it so well," or something like that, and it's like, "Wait, when did this happen?" Oh, it was about 20 years ago, or something like that. It's like, it's not a legend.
You see them like doing chores. When Hare's thinking about hooking up, I think the doctor or something, when he looks up to like, yeah, but they'll probably kill him if he comes close to her.
Yeah.
But I don't really see much other than that with that character. Some of these characters are fairly one note, but I really feel like this is a show that Goo you would expect to be closer to the center of a lot of it, but she more like just throws a match into the gasoline, and you more see the gasoline burn than the match itself.
Well, without Goo, there would be no forward motion to the show.
Yes.
That's plain and simple. She is the person that makes everything go weird and initiates problems. And she's a weird herself. And without Goo, the show would be very bland. This wouldn't go forward.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it would still be weird without Goo, but it wouldn't be as weird.
Right. And they could definitely still tell the same story. It just would not have nearly the same flavor to it.
Yeah.
It would be very different.
So
I do have a hilarious production note here for you guys that I just found out about. So the annoying laughing guy that you guys don't like, in English is played by Yuri Lowenthal, aka the voice of Sasuke from Naruto.
AKA quite a few other voices too, but
that's an opposite personality.
Yeah. Yeah. If Sasuke laughs like that, you probably gotta worry about something.
Gone insane.
Yes.
I mean, to be fair, Sasuke is insane, but
Yeah.
I still need to watch Boruto. I haven't watched a single
No,
episode
you
of that
don't.
series.
I'll sum it up to you right now. Ninjas versus aliens.
I keep buying volumes when they go on sale each year, but I never really I've never watched an episode of the movie. I watched the movie Boruto. Well, it was a Naruto movie, but it was Boruto. They should have just stopped it at the movie and said, "See, it continues." But I'm sure we'll be seeing another series with Boruto's child next up.
No, that's nothing.
Maybe.
But yeah, that's in the end. I know Brittany had to ask the same questions, like, "What is goo?" What I don't know if is that really a question that
I've been
you were
trying
ever
to
expecting
find it
to answer?
out since we started, and I cannot find an answer. I really cannot.
Well, I think there's only two possibilities. One, she's an extraterrestrial alien, or she's a god of some sort.
Well, they do say she is possessed. So, whatever it is, possessed the girl.
Well, it's definitely something weird.
Yeah, because Goo can do things like change the weight, or she can change her size, her appearance. She has an internal universe. She has the ability to influence people's minds and personalities. So yeah,
Right. She is her own personal Ichijo festival.
Yes, she is the weird character that, in reality, most of those weird characters never fully get explained.
Right.
Nobody tells you what Ichijo was, or nobody told you what half of these characters are. I mean, shoot, we never get an answer to what the Ichijo festival was about. But shoot, we never get an answer as to who Mr. Yatsura was, and that's a little bit more serious of a weirdo character.
Right.
He's just some dude in a business suit that wanders around and mooches off of people's food and slightly perverted in some ways. But one thing is for certain, she's weird, she's powerful, and she definitely weighs on Hare's mind more than anybody else's.
Yeah.
I mean, I love when they're getting ready to go to the city, and he's picturing what Goo would do when having fun, and he keeps picturing her being kaiju-sized and ready.
Yeah.
And then you realize that she's thinking about doing the same thing. I'm like,
But other than that, I think Goo is perpetually bored. She kind of hangs out and makes something. She just wants to make things happen because she's just super plain bored.
That's why I say, really and truly, most of the story or most of the comedy comes from the characters around reacting to what Goo does.
Yeah.
And you got the one straight man, then you got the oddballs all reacting in their own oddball way to Goo's weird shit.
Yeah. Well, it's either be the town elder that's completely terrified of Goo. Then you got Hare that's always perpetually either angry or kind of misses her when she's not doing something bad. He's a complex in himself. He doesn't know what you don't know what to do. You know, he likes to have the normal life, but I think he misses the exciting parts when Goo doesn't act up quite as much. Because about what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? What are you going to do next?
They have a very odd relationship, the two do.
Yeah.
But I do feel like there is a little companionship between the two of them, but it's hard to tell. I think Goo sees him as a very amusing. I think Goo sees the fact that he is a straight man, and that just automatically is a good placement for her.
There is an adult Goo kind of adult goo that suddenly doesn't materializes during the particular bear attack. She suddenly becomes an adult. Then she appears as an adult again as a substitute doctor,
Right.
and the personality changes completely. So maybe it's another person, another being inside goo.
And she is
Apparently,
Okay.
in the comic, at one point, Goo meets the future version of Hare and Goo, and somehow Goo becomes a giant monster. But as to what Goo is, I cannot find an answer.
So I kind of favor either a alien or a god of some sort.
I see God demon level somewhere in there.
and definitely in that weird realm. She almost dresses like a kind of in that godlike garb because she's got a foreign outfit that she wears.
Right.
She is definitely a weird one. I mean, from episodes like where she makes it snow, and then it goes to the point where they're all starving and freezing to death, or it goes to something like, oh well, I'm going to pretend to be a magical girl and uses various magical wands
Yeah.
to elicit personality changes, which I actually like that one, especially with the laughing person. That should have stayed that way.
But if she does, she changes her personality to the opposite.
Yep.
She also is the only person in the story that continues to stay pale.
Yes.
So,
Well, yeah, she's got an odd physiology, so I imagine that there's no burning her skin unless she wants it burned.
I don't know if she ever showed her having individual fingers in the whole show.
no, she does. Last episode I saw them and I was like, what?
What?
Fingers?
I mean, shoot, she ends up slicing her hand into little bits when she does the cooking part, and then when she shows off her knife skills, and then of course just eats the arm and then it regenerates. She's definitely very cartoony in her abilities.
Or like later where her arm becomes a machine gun.
And of course, and then of course for the other half, they finally start to tackle where Weta came from, and you find out that she was basically kicked out of the house by her father when he found out that she was pregnant as a teen.
Right.
And which, by the way, that's another thing I dislike about the Doctor is that he is also a pedophile. I mean, he was thinking about hitting on characters like Marie, who are obviously way younger than even the age of consent in Japan.
Right. Although,
I disagree with
fortunately, in that regard, he becomes very exasperated with Marie and loses all interest because she is too childlike and it drives him mad, which I was like, good, you deserve it. But,
He deserves to have been with the hair-cutting woman.
yes. What did they call her? What was her name? I guess she's maybe credited as. What did they call her? It was like old. Was it Dama? Was that it?
I don't know, but I remember that she was considered an eccentric character anyway because people didn't want to get their hair cut.
Yeah.
But I do find it entertaining that she was like, Grandpa!
Yes. And the only thing they had in common
With the
was
white
that he had
hair.
white hair.
Because you get to see the younger pictures of him and her, and she's
Yeah.
always picturing herself as the young version of herself.
Yeah. But it's like when you actually see what he looks like, you're like, how?
And I will give it this for an odd bit of consistency in the story. When he dyes his hair back to black to keep the Doctor away, and I do like how they mentioned that basically him dyeing his hair for so long has damaged his hair badly.
Yeah.
But he actually leaves it dyed black for the rest of the series. So I will give it that. There's one little bit of consistency.
Well, I mean, I was a little bit confused on that because I think I heard him say he was bleaching his hair.
Yes, he was bleaching.
Yeah.
So it was not naturally white. So
No.
it was more than likely it was black hair, and for some reason he decided to start bleaching it white for whatever crazy reason.
It was cool.
I guess it's cool.
But but he also mentioned the reason why they had to dye it black again was because he'd done it for so long he damaged his hair permanently. But they move it to the city after they first start like introducing the household servants that they have from her rich heritage, and they kind of take care of things for a little bit. And they're slightly eccentric people as well. Especially with the way they introduce themselves and how one of them wants to make sure that he does a surprising entrance. So Goo convinces him to burst out of a coffin.
Osseo, played by Sam Riegel, who both he and Lee and Brian are great friends, but also just announced he had throat cancer or whatever literally yesterday.
Oh.
So, kind of sucks. And then you had Belle, who was the stern yet overly obsessed second mother maid.
Yeah. She also had some pretty disturbing and creepy leanings where Weta was concerned.
You mean the multiple hundreds of picture volumes that she had collected?
Yes.
Weta?
Like when she's flashing back to when Weta was still a girl before she left. And it's like, this ain't normal. I don't think the doctor's the only one who's crossing moral boundaries here. But yeah, she was a weird.
In the manga, it's a he. Belle is a he.
Oh,
they're a drag queen.
okay. Well, that explains a few things. But
yeah, they do eventually get her to go back.
mm-hmm.
Basically, her father had died, and her mother really wanted to see her again. So basically, now the father's dead. Yes, please come back to us. She doesn't want to see her mother for partial reasons, basically not doing anything to keep her from being kicked out. But they still stay in the house for a good while before they end up trying to resolve things in the last few episodes.
Right.
And they also introduced the bodyguard character, which I'll admit, he's one of my favorite characters in this because he just goes all out with the weapons and being overprotective. I mean, what was it that's like they had the two people that they look like they could be following, trying to kidnap. And due to I think something that Hare did, he ends up basically backing into him. He accuses them into trying to ram him, and then leads them and then basically goes to do a chase through the city, even though nobody's chasing him.
I liked them trying to watch Weta when she was sneaking out and going undercover, and each of them in disguise and doing the damn bear outfit.
Right. Because that's not at all conspicuous.
No problem with that, because that bear was Eden.
But
I also like the game of tag that they played with Goo being it.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Making it into a
Final
slightly
episode, yes.
more horror-esque episode.
Yeah.
Which led him to meeting his grandmother, and then eventually,
Yeah.
after multiple visits, finally having them resolve things, and then abruptly ending the series.
Yeah.
But
It did feel like kind of just like a sudden drop for that ending.
But this is one of those series that you probably could have continued on for a very long time doing just weird stuff, and throwaway episodes.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the end of it all, you do get at least a resolution to the story it started with, which was Wedo running away and having Hare.
Right.
But as far as
If you're
what...
gonna do a season, you definitely of a show, no matter what, you do want, especially if you're gonna have some overarching plot, you do want to have a hint of that end at the beginning. It always helps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'd say that if this series had a major drawback to it for the kind of series it is, it would be the pacing of that storyline.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I thought it was a fairly fun little series. Nothing too grand or, nothing like
Mm-hmm.
groundbreaking as a series, but at the same time, still something that's pleasant, pretty funny to watch on occasion. I think it's one of those that would normally just be enjoyable, but not something I would put in like my top 10. But definitely one I think should be a little bit more easily available. Do y'all have anything else that y'all like to talk about as far as the overarching, plot or show? Because we can definitely talk about individual episodes at the end.
I mean,
when we talk about favorites.
I do like the Jungle Island. This is pretty much, they don't say it, I don't believe, but it's pretty much Okinawa. That it's more of a, not Okinawa, even, what is the island? I forget the Japanese islands in the southern
The
Pacific.
Ryukyus?
Oh, well, not in the Pacific. The what?
The Ryukyus?
The Ryukyus? Could be the Ryukyus.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's like the remote areas of Hawaii, basically.
Right. Heck, it could even be like Midway Island or something like that. They say it's a 12-hour flight from the jungle to the city. I'm like, damn, they talk about going to the city the whole time, and you think it's like, just a few hours or whatever. And they're like, it takes 12 hours to fly there. And it's like, well, how the hell far away are they?
They're definitely in a Pacific island somewhere.
It could be Hataruma, which is its most southern island of Japan. So,
I mean, even if they're in Japan, I don't think it's a 12-hour flight anywhere from one place to the other. It would probably...
No, from Hataruma it is.
Really?
You're talking about a place that's almost on the equator.
Yeah.
Most
It was
people
giving...
don't realize Japan's islands go that low, but they do.
Not within the main chain. They may, I guess, they may own a couple. They probably
I'm sure they
do.
own
That's
Pacific
why I
Island,
said
yes.
the most southern island.
Yeah, they probably do on like
Well,
we do. We have a few
It takes
islands
roughly
here.
4
There.
days by boat to get to it.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, it definitely gives me Pacific Islander vibes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But overall, I think that this was just a fun series. I wanted to bring it out because there's not a lot of people who talk about this these days. It kind of vanished. It really didn't have a lot of fanfare to begin with, but I don't hear anybody
It was one
talking
of
about
the ADV titles to disappear after ADV stopped being ADV.
Yeah.
All right.
I want to say ADV was still functioning when I found this at Saturday Matinee, so it's probably still in print at the time.
Which does make you wonder if maybe said discotheque, but if ADV had it, it makes you wonder if Sentai still has any degree of rights
Was
over
it
it.
ADD? Hold on, let me see.
Actually, I could see Sentai doing this as well.
No,
Yeah.
'cause it would have been Funimation because it had advertisements for
Yes.
Kodacha.
Hmm.
And Kodacha was fun. Yeah, it's Funimation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So-
probably what they happened, it got distributed by Funimation for AN.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
They
got.
made a deal.
I'm pretty sure Funimation probably doesn't have the rights to it anymore. They probably dropped the
They
rights.
probably lost it.
Yeah.
I doubt they wanted them in the first place.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Funimation. A lot of people they didn't want it. There's a lot of stuff that it's like we don't see the value in continuing to pay for
Yeah.
the license for it.
Right.
Oh, and it's even worse now that Funimation is basically Sony.
Well, I mean, it's not basically. It is Sony.
It's
Yeah.
not.
There's no basic.
Yeah.
It is Sony.
I mean,
No more Funi.
that's the thing is that I do find entertaining is that we spent a long time basically with Sony being the champion of individuals against monopolies when it comes to their fight against Microsoft, which is justified in some ways, but it's more of pot meat kettle if you think about Sony's other activities.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I talked about this last night on stream when I covered Cartoon Network. In the case of Sony, a lot of people are hating on it for the anime industry, but at the same time, it's a lot to do anime these days, and they're paying now to make the anime, and Netflix is pretty much the only other one that's doing it
Yeah,
that
it's,
way. So
mean,
they're
Sentai
paying to
is-
make the anime.
I mean, Sentai is the only one that's owned by another, but they're also owned by AMC, which is
Yeah, they're owned by AMC.
Weird. It
And
was a
then
weirdism with that.
Hulu, Disney has some. Prime has. I think they just have release concepts. I literally picked up Hulu this past weekend to see what they had for anime because they're advertising it like hell.
Hmm.
There's nothing. It's Bleach and maybe 2 other series that are original. Everything else, it's on Crunchyroll or it's on High Dive or it's on
Mhm.
Netflix.
oddly enough, Disney Plus has a large selection of anime, but I do think that Hulu eventually will disappear entirely and it will just be Disney Plus, which is what they've been working towards.
I highly doubt it with what Disney's profits have been going.
Well, I mean, that
I
was the original plan was Hulu and Disney were going to be combined in June, which I guess it did not go through. But if you look at Disney Plus's current release, now you have to make sure that you put in a code if you want any of the stuff that's not the G-rated stuff. But they have pretty much all of Hulu's anime selection. They have all the Fox stuff. Basically, they've been moving a lot of the stuff from Hulu over to Disney Plus. And
yeah, but the numbers aren't there. The numbers really aren't there. The viewers, the constant people that are paying for it, it's not there. There's literally talk right now for Elon Musk to buy the company full out.
Oh dear God. No.
so it'll be then they'll drop the ratings entirely and it'll be pornography on Disney Channel.
No, probably not. But,
I mean, there's a lot of conjecture what a bigger player would do with Sony if they bought them out. God
They
knows.
said that-
I mean,
it's
mean,
been
but what's-
rumored-
Somebody's in the honestly in the
right now,
better
right now
shape
Disney's
than
in
most
the
of
toilet for
industry
anything that's
there.
going to be anything good for any kind of movie. They say they're turning out bombs, and my main concern about it was whenever you get a controlling interest of the means of production and distribution and price. I mean, what would stop Sony from doing what it wants to do is like not let you have the show and you get to pay more.
Oh yeah, well that's the idea is to just move it all to streaming, get rid of ownership in general and
So why
control what you say.
why give the people are so just not they're not responsible enough to take care of their own gear. We'll take care of it for you.
But then again, a lot of these monopolies over these types of things, they're not good overall for the. I mean, Disney and Microsoft and Sony are all good examples of that because they're so top heavy and they have so many things. They then have to basically destroy a lot of the art they have, and some, like say the HBO, for instance, decide, you know what, we'll just get rid of it entirely, and the IP's dead forever.
And that's literally what's killing Cartoon Network right now. Between that and them wanting to do remakes of the classic cartoons.
It's all the acquisitions and having so much that they have. They just have so much that they have to manage.
Yeah.
Disney is a good example of they became so over bloated with all of their acquisitions. Disney has weathered these types of storms before, but they also had a tighter ship when they did these things.
Better talent.
Mm-hmm.
We've had and it's usually been a decade of crap versus then they come with a renaissance and crap again. I mean, look at the Disney Renaissance. We were talking about this with when we were doing on our channel, which if y'all are watching this channel, you should also be checking out that Disney thing that we're doing every week, where we've been going through all of my collections, Walt Disney Studios stuff. But if you look at it, some of that stuff, we've been going through a part of it. And it's like, oh yeah, this is where Disney was really flagging right before they hit that renaissance,
right,
with Little Mermaid. And then they started flagging again, and then we're hitting rock bottom, and people were thinking it was going to be there when Treasure Planet came out.
Oliver and Company, man. Oliver and Company was that dead point in Disney before the Renaissance.
But
they had one hell of a villain in that movie.
You have to admit, let's talk about the Disney thing really quickly. I mean, when they did put out The Little Mermaid, they had a golden decade of quality stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Just like Pixar. Another example, they could do no wrong, and now they're kind of lumbering along.
And
Pixar's finally had a hit with Inside Out too.
Yeah. Inside Out too. That was a weird one. Initially, people were starting to yell woke at it, but I guess then those people actually started seeing it and realizing that it was that there was actually something to it. I saw it in theaters, and I was surprised.
It's really hard to be like, oh, it's a woke animated film. I'm not going to take my kids to see it, because the kids aren't going to really care, woke or not.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the problem with what most people call woke, a lot of them is just really bad stories.
Well, I think really
it shows.
At the end of the day, it's not about the inclusion; it's about the poor writing and lazy cash grabs. Lots and lots of lazy cash grabs
and rushes. I mean, Disney is hurt itself in the last few films it's released, because it pushes them out before the animators can get done with the work.
Oversaturation of all their markets. Oversaturation of Marvel, Star Wars.
Especially Star Wars. Especially that property. My God.
Well, you got a little far from the jungle here.
But that's the idea. At the end of it all, it goes back to those people owning a lot of titles or being able to acquire them. But I am glad to see some places like Discotek buying up some of these kind of lost licenses to at least
Aniplex, come on, drop the price, man. Drop the price.
Oh, Aniplex. Well, Aniplex is just Sony that's Sony's excuse to release something at a high dollar value. But Discotek and Eastern Star have both been actually pretty fair in their price schemes.
Yeah.
I mean, the Discotek is like the modern ADV. They're just taking stuff and throwing it at the screen and see what people would like.
Right.
They're getting away with it because people are tired of all the same stuff. They're putting up.
Ghibli these days?
What's that?
What's the company that has Ghibli these days?
G Kids, but through Shout Factory. Shout Factory's doing the
Right.
distribution.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting my copy of Boy and the Heron this week, hopefully.
Oh, okay. Was
but-
that part of the anime sale? Because I missed that.
No, but it's been
Okay.
released this week. There was actually a collection from what's that dude that did Life is Short, Walk On Girl? They released a 5-film collection from that person.
Man, why am I?
And it does have one film that I did not have in my collection with his. So I was able to. I feel like that's going to be a fun consolidation. But in any case,
so annoyed.
with these types of things, we have hope that something like this can get picked up. The fact that good examples of that is for the first time ever, we got to see all of Kodacha released overseas,
Right.
for better or for worse.
For worse. I can assure you. Second
They
half.
finally finished
Forward.
Sergeant Frog, for goodness sakes, here.
Masaki Yuasa. Why did we have trouble with that? I'm
But with this, well,
still waiting for them to release Cheeky Angel, damn it.
they should.
That's on Viz. That's on Viz. They own the rights to that.
Yeah, I know.
They're holding it hostage then. But
Yeah.
Phil constantly releases Naruto and Bleach.
I just want to get my Macross Frontier. That's what all I want from life right now. That's it.
Because
No,
wait,
They did dub it, but they haven't released it that much, have they? That's kind of weird. This is actually a really good Macross season.
I can't even remember which Macross I put in on the Kickstarter, but I have a set coming for one of the pieces.
Macross 2.
Yes, that's it.
Macross 2, Lovers Again. Like the third time it's been released. It's going to be the definitive collection. I'm happy to get something from Macross, so I'm exactly happy about it.
have they ever really released the original Macross that wasn't Robotech?
Yeah. The original Macross was released.
Okay.
Yep.
I based an RPG character after the main character of Macross 2.
Oh, you just
And
wait.
a Macross game.
I'm waiting on my Adventure Time D&D set to get there. I might actually replace some Wednesdays with a once a month Adventure Time RPG. Not man.
Interesting.
But speaking of interesting animation, let's go to production value of this. And as always, we'll start with our with the closest thing we have to an animation expert, which would be Brittany. What did you think of the animation of Hare plus Goof?
The character animation was good, although they did cheap out with Goo having no fingers. And it's very easy to draw an arm with no hand. And also when it's the character's very fluid like Goo is. I feel it was stylized, but if we were going to talk about just the opener, I felt the opener was more childish than the show.
Do you see what I was talking about when it kind of reminded me of the Kodacha openers?
Oh yeah. I haven't watched Kodacha in a while, but yeah, I do remember the opener to Kodacha that way.
Of course, the only opener I've seen of Kodacha is Ultra Relax, but but still.
Of course, I've got the freaking season 2 dance stuck in my head.
You talk about cheap animation.
Oh yeah, to have that rerun 15 times in like 4 episodes.
We're getting our money out of this creation, darn it. We're going to reuse it like every episode. But,
And I apologize. I finally got rain in my home.
in?
Well, outside, but
Oh, okay, that's good. That's how
at my window. So I mean, finally getting some rain here, and I'm glad.
Oh no, we understand. I'm sure that Jake probably still hears the thunder as well as I do. I know I have been.
Yeah, I've been hearing stuff.
Yeah, but you guys are south of me.
Let's see here. Well, not as far south of you as Roger is. I doubt that he's
True.
in the same range.
All of you are south of me. Just some are closer south than the others.
Yeah, I could technically drive to your place. I'm not going to be driving to Roger's place anytime soon.
Well, it's a long trip. Yeah.
Though it would be worth it to see the Grand Grindelwald.
It is pretty good, pretty cool sight to see for the first time.
One of these days, we'll have to make a pilgrimage to view and worship at the feet of that.
You can also live in it.
Yeah, I'll do like Mo said, get like a sleeping bag and sleep. But what about the rest of y'all? How did y'all like the animation?
Well, and I think the animation is serviceable. I mean, it's nothing like, it's not Studio Gainax or Bones or Sunrise or anything like that, but it's serviceable. I mean, the characters have expression. It's kind of it's just some sort of minimal animation part of it, like you're watching something really old anime. But do they really need to make something really complicated? No. So I guess it is serviceable for what the show is supposed to be.
Yeah, I think that's a good way. I think it's a good way.
Sort of an early digital animation. So
I would say that it's a little simpler than I would prefer, but it also fits the tone of the show. And I think that overall, I don't really have any particular complaints about that. Like I said, there may have been some things that I would have personally seen done a little differently, but overall, it fits the tone of the show, and that's usually what you would want in one like this.
One of the things that you reminded me of when you said digital, I was thinking about another one that's a slightly odd series called Excel Saga.
Slightly.
A lot of animation is done with digital these days. It zooms in. See? You see the but again, I thought this was effective for what it did. You don't need like the most expensive animation to do a generic comedy.
No, you don't. No. If you see an example, something like could be an extension of this is my let's say My Bride is a Mermaid. I think it's called My Bride is a Mermaid. It's kind of reminiscent of this kind of art style, except of course done by Gainax. It's a lot more rounder and a lot more detailed. But I don't really see much of a problem having 2D like art style like this.
I would say more Love Hina for some of the younger characters in Love Hina.
I don't know why. It kind of almost has a Pokemon-esque the hairstyle.
Yeah.
As much as Pokemon got better with animation, it was still very simple at the start.
Yeah.
Well, what about music? I mean,
I
love the opener, but
opener, yeah. I mean, I think they had that weird tone that anytime they had something strange going on or something kind of odd going on, they had that whatever low oboe kind of sing-song thing. Man, this is definitely not raw Septum, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I will admit, I danced to the opener.
Yeah, I love the opener. It's kind of a salsa almost kind of vibe to it. Like honestly, it's more of a Caribbean South American vibe than anything else, which I really liked. And it's a fun song generally. And of course, the Ender is just a straight up music song that sounds like, I don't know, to me it almost sounds like something out of I would almost say it sounds like elevator music.
It reminds me of the music they used to play in the advertising that they did for like Viz catalogs.
Yeah. It definitely. It has a strong throwback vibe to it. Like, I almost wanted to say something out of a 70s, maybe not 70s, maybe more 80s. But yeah, it has a very much an old school vibe to it, and it's pretty catchy on its own. Although, again, without any words to go with it. But
well, at the end of this month, we'll be hitting a much more music-heavy series.
Oh yeah,
and so it'll be definitely interesting. But I do think this one's music was good enough for the tone. It definitely had a catchy opener.
oh, yeah.
I found myself nodding along with the palm trees and the giant jungle flowers. As
Yeah,
You
the botanist.
need to do Goose dance. You'd be like shaking the whole body.
Yeah, the botanist in me was horrified by those scenes, but otherwise.
What was it? Rastaflas?
What's
the
that?
ones that smell like dead people?
That's the one, yeah.
Well, you had the Rafflesia, you had the Victorian water lily, you had the Venus flytrap, you had mangroves, you had palm trees, you had a few things that were appropriate and a few things that weren't. But yeah, it was just overall, I don't know. Every time anyone tries to treat Venus flytrap as a tropical jungle plant, I cringe. It's so much wrong with that, and it just makes me cringe. It's like, no.
Yours, the botanist-esque personality. I don't know if you don't have a degree in botany, but you live by it.
Right.
He's worked amongst it for a long time.
Yes.
But then again, with goo involved, anything's possible.
Yes, this is true. And if this was meant to represent scenes inside of her, then anything's possible.
It's hard to really go with any type of natural order inside that.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we forgot about a character, the one spurned woman who was going to take her life, but then also was very homicidal as well, and very.
Yes.
I kind of forgot about her. It was probably for the best, as she was also annoying to me.
She was, although I did kind of like at the very end, they showed that she had finally learned to embrace life inside. She became institutionalized, as they say.
That's how I believe the other two decided to stay. They just been there so long. They're just like, yep.
Yeah, those two were interesting.
Well, let's go ahead and then wrap up the discussion. I don't like all this thundering, and I don't want it to destroy the power, so we'll move a little bit more quickly at the end. So as far as, we'll just say a favorite episode / story, because some had multiple stories in an episode, versus favorite character. Since I think we ended with, I want to say we ended with Jake last time, so we'll start with you, Jake. What's your favorite episode / story and favorite character?
It's kind of hard to say. Like, even though the old woman was annoying as hell, I didn't really like her much as a character. The doctor deserved everything bad that came to him. So the parts where he is fleeing and hiding in fear, and the whole idea that they finally managed to get him free of her by him not continuing to bleach his hair. And the reason why, when it was revealed why she mistook him for her, I was very amused by that. I'm not sure that would be the number one, but it seems like as good as anything to go with. Like I said before, there were characters that I really wanted to like, that I really wanted to root for. But at the end of the day, I probably would have to say that the Elder was probably my favorite character, and Goo might have been a second.
All right. Brittany, favorite story and slash episode and favorite character?
I'll add another one with a favorite scene because it's going to be in a different episode. Favorite story was the one that they were going and following the mother and the doctor on the date, because I just love the bodyguard trying to kill them. Hare continuously getting introduced as Mr. No Underwear from Goo, and Goo in the damn bear outfit, and them just constantly harassing the neighbor of the room the doc was staying in. Now, favorite scene has to be the snow day with them explaining Santa Claus.
That was good, yes.
Basically, Jason Voorhees as Santa Claus.
That's all the Jason has.
Yeah, that was good.
It's like, what is he bringing us presents?
and I forgot, but Brittany just reminded me. I want to add to that scene about them following Weta and the doctor when he got out his gun, because that's his go-to action. And Hare's like, no. Oh, yeah, you're right. And he pulls out the silencer.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
Favorite character? It's a toss-up between Goo and Robert, because I love the concept of the bodyguard who resorts to violence all the times.
All right, Roger. Favorite episode slash favorite character?
I would think that my favorite episode would probably be the one where Hare gets to pilot Goo. It's just the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It was weird. It was kind of weird, but it's also pretty appropriate. It's like, you can control this. You hear the controls. They even got a little virtual Goo. I said it must admit it was the episode that got the most interested in.
I did like that Goo's head came off for faster flying.
Let me see. My favorite scene is whenever Goo decides to go Kaju. It was kind of it's unexpected. Just unexpected. I wasn't even guessing this would happen. I know it was a dream sequence. It was real. I said, well, I guess it got to be real. This is something for the real, first time that she could be a god of some sort, kami god. I was saying, yeah, it's probably going to be something like that. You see, my favorite character. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but without Goo, there would not be a show. I mean, it would just be a generic, another Mapletown story show, whatever it is. So my favorite character would have to be Goo.
All right. Well, my favorite episode was the Magical Girl episode. I love the switching of the personalities, but I also love the fact that Goo just basically would take all these rounds. Like, here is the magic wand, and then he hands him a fork.
Yeah.
It just it struck me. There was another series that reminded me a little bit of just weird magic wands. Like, there was that series that came after Excel Saga by the same artist, did like a 2 or 3 episode one. Where the magical girl gutted a fish as her magical wand.
Oh wait, was that
Miami? Yeah.
Talk about what's that Angel Derulo-chan, are you?
No. This one was done by Watanabe, was it?
Watanabe was the one that did Excel. I don't think he was involved with that series, though, that you're talking about.
He was involved somewhat, but Nabashin was also in that.
Yeah.
Then maybe. I'd have to look
Actually,
up. But yeah,
Nabashin was
Watanabe, otherwise known as
actor character.
Nabashin, who did Cowboy Bebop as his, magnum opus, and did several other series since. And you can always see Nabashin. And in fact, you just got me thinking of what I might do and play some Ninja Scroll.
We need to one day do Narima Daikon Brothers.
It's not gonna be Daikon. It's gonna be a hard one to find though. I'm gonna have to see if I can find it.
So for me, favorite characters between the bodyguard and Goo. It's rare that I like these characters that are just a weird generic character like that, but because usually they know the hell out of me. But for some reason, she did not. I don't know. Maybe it's because a lot of those seem to come across as a lot more evil, and Goo was sort of evil, but not as evil as some of these other ones.
Right.
Definitely not as evil as Yatsuya was.
Yeah. IMDb not IMDb. ANN does say Shinichi Watanabe is the director of Puni Puni Poemi. So,
yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember that was one of the follow-ups to very brief follow-up to Excel.
And yes, it is even more bad shit than this show.
That's not hard to say. I make that sound like this was a normal show.
Okay.
But of course, next month we'll be following up. Brittany's going to gain control over things for this next quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of this month, we're going to be doing Bakano as the first series. At least I believe so. You're still sticking with that one, right?
Oh, yeah. A funny thing happened on the way from Chicago to New York on a train ride.
Okay.
So
that was good. Yeah, I can agree with that.
So we'll definitely be covering that. It's not as long as this one's 10 episodes less, as a matter of fact. So I think we'll be able to get it done in 3 weeks. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
If nothing else, I'll now have a movie on as the backup.
So with that though, real quick, we'll just run down some stuff for Jake and our channel here. Versus Awards season is upon us. Starting next week, I will have everything up to start the voting process on the Facebook page. I would encourage y'all to check out our nominations video and to check out our Facebook for the Versus Awards, which will be linked down below.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, as always, buy our movie, Amityville Webcam, which is not only here, but on SRS. And a matter of fact, apparently a lot of people notice it's on SRS because I keep getting sales notifications on that, but none on the one that I make all the profit from. But with that being said, if you want to see a movie that yours truly directed and that Jake actually is the star of, that is definitely the film to see.
Mm-hmm.
Roger, did you have anything that you wanted to plug?
Oh, no, just normal everyday Roger. I run an animation collection company. It's a small Facebook site that caters to large anime collections, large figure and manga collections, and it's kind of I'm bringing in more kind of Japanese culture stuff. So it's not always going to be about collections, but you'll have to see other interesting facts and factoids and stuff coming out. And so it's a little more relaxed these days. So I do if anybody wants to have a relaxing time without a site where you don't have any strange politics going on and yelling and screaming and cursing, all that, come by Animazing. It's a relaxing place to go to.
You even have a free-for-all Sunday, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that was by popular demand, if I were to say so.
And you want to know, it's very weird to go on Facebook and be on a place where there's not a lot of bickering and pretty much almost no political discussion, which allows for people on all sides of the aisle to get along, which we don't get these days. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. It's amazing. I got a lot of friends that are diametrically opposed to what I believe in, and I welcome them all. It's great. It's an anime and manga and collecting binds us all. It really shows that people can get along. I really like it.
Hey, it's good to see sometimes when we look at something, the things that we have in common as opposed to the things that separate us.
Indeed.
So, how about you, Brittany? What do you have anything you want to tell the one viewer that's watching right now?
We have Final Fantasy VII playthrough going through where we have advanced the graphics, even have voice acting in the game. So it's kind of like a different playthrough if you've never seen it. It's been getting a couple of people's attention. I'm not going to be doing a stream Saturday simply to take the day off because it's my birthday. But we will be back next Tuesday with another dribble draw with a new topic, more than likely something that will come up around that time for that topic. And then we do Dining and Doodles normally on Saturdays, which is a request art show. If you have something you want to request, you can contact me through my YouTube channel or any of the social media. Embry Arts is pretty much the guaranteed connection. And you can put in a request for something to be drawn on streaming. And I have to note, it has to be available to air on YouTube and Twitch. It doesn't air on Twitter, but Twitter's not restrictive on like and draw. But yeah, it has to be able to air on 2 other platforms. So it has to be done in 2 hours.
Well, with that, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Of course, if you want a little bit more on the anime discussion, go to Inside Movies Galore, where we have discussed Barefoot again, and Brittany was guested on the channel.
I had to go voice. I couldn't do the voice on that movie. It's too serious.
So if you want another very lighthearted discussion, that's definitely one to go to.
Super lighthearted.
Only about Hiroshima, but maybe
because this month the channel is doing war, and of course next week on Monday we are covering The Longest Day. Daryl F. Zanuck's Longest Day. So we're definitely knee deep in our own war trenches.
And then Michael Cimino's The Deer Hunter, the most uplifting, cheerful movie of them all.
Yeah.
When I'm thinking that Hunt for Red October is the cheerful edge for the month, that's sad.
Yeah.
But we'll go. We're going to have some fun in the next month. I'm actually in charge of the theme, and I've actually got a theme already now in mind that will make it
Good
fun.
times.
So, with that being said, I hope you all enjoy. Subscribe, share, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.